Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. This is your one-stop shop to learn the business side of your practice on a deeper level. On this show, we empower you to own your CEO status to scale your practice for growth, sustainability, and profit. Listen in as we talk about how to market your practice to gain more visibility, hire, build, and engage your ride or die dream team, create streamlined operations, and make financial decisions as a CEO. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It is Brandy here, and this is a good one. This is an episode that I have been looking forward to recording for a while because it's been on the calendar for a while. And I know that with everything that's happening in just with the election coming, like us going into like election year and even starting to do some voting and really making sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. This is a timely conversation. Even diving back to the end of 2023, where student loan was a huge topic when it came to forgiveness and everything else too. So I'm excited for today's conversation. This conversation, we're talking about, if you paid attention to the title, we are diving into some non-traditional ways to actually help you get forgiveness on your student loans. If you are in the boat, which I'm assuming a majority of the listeners are, where you've had to take out loans to pay for your higher levels of education, I'm raising my hand right here, then this episode is definitely for you. I know I even go into a story about years ago. I spoke to a financial planner trying to make sure I was setting myself up and my son up for success when it comes to like his education. And the advice I was given was awful and wasn't very helpful. So what I love about today's conversation is because we're talking to a true expert. And so some of the things that we dive into are definitely out of the box ways for you to get student loan forgiveness. They're legal. They are completely legal. But it's just different things that like a different way of thinking that you wouldn't necessarily get if you were to sit down with a financial planner today. And because you are a business owner, that is to your favor. And because even diving back into maybe some of your past experience and things like that too. So this conversation is more definitely conversational, but if you listen closely, you're definitely going to walk away with some gems. And so have a notebook ready. Dr. Sonia Lewis is who we're talking to today. And let me tell you, she's a fast talker. So be prepared. Be prepared. Have your notebook, pen ready, all the things. So if you're listening to this, maybe if you're on the treadmill or in the car or walking or whatever, you're getting the kids ready, you might want to set some time aside to go back and re-listen to this episode. Because it is a good one. And you're going to be like, oh, I don't think I really thought about doing that. Oh, maybe I should take the time to really think more about doing something like that. Or let me go back and dig a little bit to see if there's anything that I could do about the student loan debt that I'm tackling now so I can make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. She also dives into some of the amazing programs that are there that a lot of us just don't know or take the time to find out too. So she is truly the expert when it comes to student loans. Her resume is crazy. So let me dive into everything that she's done. So Dr. Sonia Lewis is an expert speaker on student loan repayment and subsequent financial planning across all audiences, regardless of age. She has been invited to share her expertise on different platforms, such as the White House briefing on advancing equity for women and girls of color, Black Enterprise, Money Magazine, writer contributed and featured in Essence Magazine's Forbes, KYW News Radio, Fox 29, the BET Network, RT America, and a host of educational workshops across the nation. Sonia is also a 3-time self-published author. She was also recently on Earn Your Leisure. So if you are a fan of that podcast, then she comes with so much wealth of knowledge. I know even if you go to her website, they have helped over 50,000 plus clients nationwide. So she knows her stuff, definitely. So enjoy this episode. Remember, she's a fast talker. Very, 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 very. She knows, she just like on the fly. And so just make sure that you see her information in the show notes if you are in the boat when it comes to student loans, and that you have a notebook and a pen ready. So enjoy. Hello, hello. I'm so excited to have you here, Dr. Sonia Lewis. I want to make sure I put some respect
Yes,
on the doctor,
absolutely.
and because I know that you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to being the student loan doctor. So tell me more about your experience and those who are listening, and all the
Yeah, thank
things.
you so much for having me. And it's just an exciting time to be here. I know we'll have a really, really good, fruitful conversation. So, the student
Mhm.
loan doctor, let's just go back a bit like, oh, who is this girl? It was birth. Literally, we are sitting in the middle of my anniversary month. So, this time, 8 years ago, I started the business and I thought it was a little radical. I thought it was like, I'm gonna be really transparent with you. I was like, oh, I just know this stuff through my professional background, which was higher education. And I was like, it'll just
Mhm.
bring in some extra money. I'll help a few people. All will be well. I did not imagine that it would have grown to what it has grown to. I'm like, God could have sent an email for that. Okay. So, long story short, I'm very grateful though to be in this position of service because there is so much work to do. And I think that even when
Mhm.
I initially thought about the brand, creating the student loan doctor, in which we help and educate people about their student loan debt, I by no means was going to take it this far, right? So, but God had bigger plans. So, what happens with the brand, and if you're listening and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen today, is the goal is always for someone to leave, whether it's a class or whether it's a community of sorts.
Mhm.
The goal is for them to always leave knowing more than when they came in. Very, very, very important stuff. So, for us, we just want
Absolutely.
to make sure that when you're here, you're learning, you're supported, and you don't feel bad about your debt because a lot of our clients have six-figure debt. So, I mean, it's normal for me to see you with 100 or 200,000. Most recently, I saw 800,000, and we don't blink, right? So when I see somebody with like 30, I'm like, I love it. It's cute. So, but remember, large debt varies from person to person. So someone carrying 30,000, it could be like how the other person's carrying 300,000. So we don't make light of anything. So yeah, so I'm just really excited to where the brand has grown. We're doing a lot of great work with the
Mhm.
Biden administration, and we are seen as the authority on student loan debt. So yeah, we're going to get into a good conversation today, and then I'm hoping, people don't be weird. That's my favorite tagline, by the way. Don't be weird. Like, don't hear this good information today, and then just be like, that was good, and then go do nothing. Like, go apply for something, go read about
Mhm.
something, because we're in, like, especially at the time of this recording, a major push to have under the belt of the Biden administration more individuals with loan forgiveness. This is the time.
Yeah, yeah, and I would love to dive into that a little bit more because I know going towards like the end of the year, there was a lot of talk with loan forgiveness and there were deadlines and everything else too. So fast forward to at the time of this recording, we're in March. So 3 months later. So what is the state of the union when we're talking about student loans, forgiveness, or just any kind of gems that you can definitely provide us to
Well,
help us
the
out?
Biden administration has already given out billions of dollars, and it's very real. And so they're being very selective through the Higher Education Act of 1965 to give out forgiveness. And I think people need to understand the laws that are out there that was already given in terms of permission. Some people have been very disappointed that the 20 or the 10,000 that the Biden administration was writing a campaign on could not go through. Well, I'm gonna be very honest with you. Like, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do know how to read law to
Mhm.
a certain extent. I was like, this isn't gonna work because there was too many things that was contingent outside of the president's and the Secretary of Education's wheelhouse to do. So, long story short, what they're doing is they're back at the table and they're doing what's called a negotiated rulemaking process to implement a new rule, right? Not law, difference, to allow for forgiveness to pass through the Higher Education Act of 1965, granted by Lyndon B. Johnson. So, when I saw that written up, when they went back to the table, I said, okay, now we talking. Now we got a little steam behind us. It is my job to know these things because the first law that they were trying to go under for loan forgiveness was the Pandemic Act. But not to be funny, student loans was
Mhm.
around before the pandemic and they're here after the pandemic. So when they put it through for that, I was like, who wrote this? I was like, this is the Pandemic Act. The interest accruing, the payments required, yes. too much for these
Mhm.
pandemic times. But your 300,000, no, you didn't even know a pandemic was coming before you took that money. So you see how, like, if you just put it in lay terms,
Yeah.
I was like, this not gonna work. So, but I'm not. I'm always very positive person too. So I just was like, okay, I just be quiet on that one. But I but also remember, at the end of the day, I don't work for anyone, so I'm always very liberal with what I
Mhm.
say. And what I say is always remember, at the end of the day, this is all about numbers and politics. And so it's just, so ironic that the rulemaking may be passed around the time of reelection. Like, we're not
Mhm.
slow. So, I never tell our tribe and community who to vote for. I say you need to do what's best for you and the things that matter for you and your family. So if you're like someone that has 400,000 and a reelection might get you pushed over, all things other considered, that, I mean, it's so you have to
Mhm.
understand what's coming up, and what is coming up is a lot. In this summer, they're going to try to introduce. Also, a lot of people don't know this, Brandy, but here's what I will tell you. So every July, the country produces what they're going to spend money on. It's like your
Mhm.
annual report for spending. Businesses do it. The country does it. Did you know that? I've just learned recently about.
No, I had no
You
idea.
should read it. It's
Mm-mm.
actually very interesting and not difficult to read. And so what I do in this business is I look for it to come out around July, and I go straight to the education component, and I'm looking at your higher
Mhm.
education. Okay, you ready? And so I'm looking, I'm
Yeah.
like, mm-mm. I see that's not coming this year. You can see what they already got the money approved for. So if you ever hear them on the news talking about the budget and how Congress is at a hold, they're not going to pass through. You've heard this stuff, but you didn't know what that would.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about. So I'd be so curious. I'm like so worried about this. I'm like, I would love to see if this budget says the allocated extra billions that they plan to newly implement. Also, people have to understand, when the country allocates money to different initiatives, like when there's wars or things happening overseas, sometimes that money comes from unused money that was for something
Mm.
else. I'm giving an example. Well, let's just make this up. We're being very hypothetical here, but just for context. Let's say the government said, all right, $500 billion for those that qualify for this type of loan forgiveness under this act or rule, right? But people don't apply. People don't apply for stuff, right?
Mhm.
They're in,
Yeah.
and they did one mass email. Okay. So only 100,000 of that money was used. We're halfway through the year. Do you think they're going to keep that other 400 sitting there? Just really
No.
no. So what I tell people is, when you hear news about loan forgiveness, limited programs, small waivers,
Mhm.
this money is just being shuffled on a board. Now, it's not simple for them to just go grab it and move it. It is other process behind it. I don't make it seem like that. But
Mhm.
just know that when people don't do what they need to do, which is apply and follow up, because these processes are not perfect, money gets lost. Okay, where am I going with
Mhm.
this? Hit fast forward. So coming back up this summer, they're reproposing the Biden loan forgiveness program. Okay. All right, so
Ooh.
let's get into that. There's 5 points. And if you don't mind, I like to actually read them verbatim to you, because I don't
Yes,
want you to think
please.
I'm making
Please
this
do.
stuff up. So these are the 5 groups of eligible borrowers. Okay. And if we were like in a live session, I would be like, type me if you think this applies. So if you're listening, like, type me in your head. So number one, borrowers with current balances greater than what they originally borrowed.
Mm.
Almost everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Number
yeah.
two, those who enter into repayment on their student loans 25 or more years ago. Okay.
Mhm.
Number
Yeah.
three, students who attended programs of questionable value.
Yeah. I can think of, like, a lot of programs that
Most
were
people put
questionable value.
it's very subjective, right? And okay, me, let's keep
Yeah.
going. Borrowers eligible for existing relief programs, including
Mhm.
public service loan forgiveness, who just haven't applied. All right, where am I going with that one? So programs like PSLF and borrower's defense. So
Mhm.
there's a number attached to it, most times 100%. I was saying I was a little nervous that if you hadn't applied properly, you may get a percentage thereof with this type of program, okay? Because remember, this is a blanket act of forgiveness. You see how I'm reading these things? You could do multiple
Yeah.
categories. I don't think your money would change, but that they would give out. But you know where I'm going with this. This is the last one. You ready? Borrowers in
Mhm.
financial hardship. Me.
Oh, there's so many.
So you're listening like, did she just say financial hardship? So they're clarifying those five groups, and you're going to hear me talk about it more on my
Mhm,
platform. The one clarity for financial hardship is like, do you receive like food stamps, SNAP? Do you receive
mhm,
subsidized housing, subsidized health care? Like they're getting really granular on these points. So there's a lot of work to do that'll be coming out this summer, fall. So I
mhm.
say all that to say that there's a lot that will be coming out in the next few months. So this podcast is timed perfectly because I do think that people are numb to the word loan forgiveness. I think when
Yeah.
you see it on the shade room or you hear us talking about it, you're like, another 1 billion. My loans are still there. So then what will happen is when new programs like this come up that you could actually be eligible for, I think people are going to miss the opportunity because they're numb to, oh, I don't get that. I'm never eligible. So that's why it's important to be aware.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I know, like, with one of the things that's coming up for me is with our audience. So our audience are, they're private practice owners, they're providers, they're in healthcare, like they're helping people every single day. And so I'm curious to know when we are thinking about loan
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness, what does that look like specifically for like service-based industries, or what exactly, or even with the five categories that you just talked about, how can we take some actionable steps to take advantage of those opportunities?
Well, let's put the five categories to the side because this isn't passed through. Let's talk about what is already enacted. So, um, when you
Okay.
are in the healthcare profession, one, thank you for your service because it's a very thankless job sometimes. Okay, so we want to see people
Mhm.
get their loans forgiven because this is major. Number two, the other thing I want people to consider is before you started your own practice, you probably was of service, therefore, already as a nurse or a doctor or whatever that looked like, right? Um,
Mhm.
think about that service since 2007. The thing to write down would be, where have I worked since 2007 in terms of a nonprofit, not for profit, or government that I could utilize towards loan forgiveness. So let's try to get that back credit if someone's in a newer space of being their own entrepreneur, business owner, private practice, right? Then let's say fast forward. So one of the things that we were talking about offline that we'll now bring online is that
Yeah.
if you have your own private practice, right? I wonder, do you have, if you're listening, a 501c3, a nonprofit component to what you're doing? So, where am I going with this? You can be eligible for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program if you have or work for a nonprofit. So, the thought is, could you start a nonprofit that could be along the lines of some of the similar work you do? Now, here's the thing, I don't want anybody to get in trouble with the IRS. So, let's clarify what that could look like.
Mhm.
So, we don't want to start, like, let's just say you have, give me an example of a private practice. So I can drill this home. Brittany, what type of private?
Yes. I work with a lot of like mental health
Mhm.
professionals, so therapists, psychologists who have private practices, and then I do work with some other specialties too, so
Nice.
who are physicians
Therapy.
and things. Yeah.
Therapy.
Mhm.
I actually owe a text message to my therapist. I'll text her after. Let's do therapy. So what will happen is, let's say you are doing therapy for um, women, particularly women
Mhm.
who, well, let's just leave it blank. That's just you specialize in some form of women. Let's just keep it blank for everyone. But let's say you had a nonprofit. The nonprofit, what you want to be careful here. You don't want to have a nonprofit that could also serve women in the same way. We've got to make it a little
Mhm.
different. So we would want the nonprofit to look more like, maybe I'll serve children. So the two customers could not look alike, but could be of the same
Mhm.
field. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
it
I
does.
just want to provide clarity because I don't want you to get caught up, and there's a rule the IRS has that says Could you have done this in your business, but just have made it more affordable, or have taken a price cut? And as a business owner, you're like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not trying to do that through my LLC for free. Like that's just not fruitful. So most people try to do something on the same lines with a nonprofit, and that could get you in a lot of
Mhm.
trouble. So you want to have a nonprofit, could be in the form of therapy, or even better, something totally unrelated. But you, and let me just
Mhm.
say this: it could still benefit a woman. You ready? So let's just say you had this LLC where you provided therapy for women. And then you had a nonprofit where you donated wigs to women that battle cancer. I'm making this up, right? Like women, and
Mhm.
you like serving women. And maybe a woman in your practice could use one of your wigs, but you see how they're not related.
Yeah, yeah, I do. So they just like one supplements the
Yeah, it
other,
could be
it
yeah,
sounds
but
like.
just as long as the
Mhm.
services don't overlap. And you can have a service-based nonprofit, just as long as your LLC doesn't do of the same line. That's what I just wanted to drive home for people. But let's get into the minutia of it. So let's say now, okay, you got that established. You know now what you want to do. You do your paperwork from the state and the federal level, and you are working at least 30 hours in this business. The cool thing is,
Mhm.
for the first 3 years, you can technically work in your nonprofit, but not be necessarily bringing in income. So that takes a lot of burden off of people because you can collect public service loan forgiveness credit from day one. So super cool in that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you get that paperwork done and it's stamped for March 5th, then it is retroactively applied back to March for your credit. So super cool. Now, let's hit fast forward. Why do I love this program so much? The PSLF. Remember, the
Mhm.
nonprofit is a vehicle to help you become eligible for PSLF. Okay, why do I love it so much? Because they're changing the rules as of this July, and one of the changes that they've hinted at is that you'll be able to make multiple payments, expedited payments, to hit your 120 payment mark. So, so cool. What does that look like? Let's say your payment is 400 a month. And instead of
Mhm.
buying new clothes, new shoes, new bags, I'm just talking to my own ministry here. Let's say you had an extra 400, you can make another payment. Well, we know we only need
Mhm.
120 qualified payments for this program. Now, extra payment, we could cut the time down from 120 months, 10 years, to maybe 5 years if we were doing double payments. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? So
It does.
all of your student loan debt could be gone, however many hundreds of thousands you owe, just by being in this program. And we do help our community with this program. We have a program they can, opt into and learn more about. I don't like to just tell people like, yeah, sign up, because you got to understand what fiscal responsibility you're taking on with this program. I mean, you are starting
Mhm.
a nonprofit with the government. So be very, clear on that. And also, student loans aside, I would hope that if you were to start a nonprofit, you really care to be of service to people, because that's what this is
Right.
about at the end of the day. Your student loans are receiving the benefit of forgiveness as a result, but you
Mhm.
really got to, have a good heart for service. So, all right, did I break that down clearly? I was trying to go through like six
Yeah.
steps in my head without a presentation.
Yeah, no. I think I love it. I love the out of the box thinking because one of the things that we always talk about is leveraging your business, leveraging your practice. So, what's a way for you to leverage your practice in order to make an impact in the
Yeah,
community to definitely make a difference? And I know, like the folks who we work with are very heart centered and come from a place of service, but they don't necessarily want to be broke in the process of doing that because they've chosen, and so there's definitely great ways of entrepreneurship. So, to go back to your point, to charge lower fees or to have to provide free services, it's not in alignment because it's not sustainable compared to if you were to open up a nonprofit or had a connected supplemental complementary type of nonprofit, then that's a way for you to do
yeah.
both. My number one question that I think about is for the owner who is maybe listening to this, like, oh, that sounds good, but I'm busy. Like, I to try to sit there and try to open up like a whole other nonprofit or a whole other business.
Don't overthink it. we have a full service that's really affordable that we can help you get the paperwork done. But remember, you have 3 years to get this off the ground. And Brandy, I'm just going to
Mhm.
speak very frank today because I'm in just one of those, moods. I
Okay,
call it
good. Bring it on.
$20 Tuesday. So here's the thing. You owe, and if they need help with this, go to studentaid.gov. You
Mhm.
log in, you see what you owe. You just found time. So the thing is, Brandy, we have to make time for things that can help us. I'm telling you guys,
Mhm.
this is the number one program, especially under this administration, that will get your 100, 200, $500,000 loan debt forgiven. Find time. And it's not that much time you need.
Mhm.
In the first couple of years, you're going to have your quarterly board meetings where you organize your structure. Maybe you do one big virtual event a year to support your cause. Nobody's telling you you have to do all these physical in-person events. You don't have to, you could be
Mhm.
doing virtual education for all we care, okay? You just want to make sure that it is producing income to be able to help others. That's the goal by year four.
Mhm.
So as long as you can commit to that, and we do lay it out easier in other ways, but that's really it, Brandy. And I just like to be frank with people and say, we find time for the things that we need and matter to us. It is your home buying
Mhm.
season. It is your investing season. It is your marriage season. Student loan debt is in the middle of all those three things, okay? It is your child needs private school season. Figure it out, okay?
Mhm.
And I would use other words if we were girlfriends offline. Like, girl, so I don't really do well with people telling me I'm just so well. Then get overwhelmed in another area, and maybe you cut TV time, maybe
Mhm.
you cut happy hour time, maybe you cut something, and you figure this little slither of time. Because I'm telling
Mhm.
you, this is the vehicle to do what you're already naturally good at doing. To get rid of your student loan debt. Nobody else is going to come save you. And then these miscellaneous forgiveness programs are, and I'm going to be frank here, they're rarely forgiving hundreds of thousands. They might be taking 20, 30 off. You know what I mean? That's like, what is that going to do
Mhm.
for a $300,000 student loan debt? So that's why we got to
Yeah.
get into, and then also I feel like when I'm talking to your audience, I know I'm talking to thinkers. I'm talking to those that have brilliant
Mhm.
minds. I'm talking to problem solvers.
Mhm. You
I'm
do.
talking to those that went to grad school and medical school when the odds were against them and they ate peanut butter and jelly. Girl,
Mhm.
bye. So they gonna figure it out. You can't bait me into this conversation. Mm-mm. So I hear you, but we also have to push back a little bit. And I do, do this with my community. Let's look at the
Mhm.
calendar. Where are the 5 hours coming from this month to help you with your nonprofit? Let's figure it out. And you could do it at 2 in the morning if you want it. You did it before. You got it at you. That's how we got to start thinking. Because if we let these amazing programs go by, get changed, and we didn't opt in, you will remember this podcast moment and you'll be like, oh my God, now it's too late. Now I can't. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I hope that
Yeah.
wasn't too hard. I hope they still listening. But
Yeah. No, I think it's true. I think it's so true because it sounds like it's a two play. So there's the nonprofit
Mhm,
part of it, and then also because I know a lot of the folks listening, they do have experience where they've worked in
mhm.
nonprofits or they've
Yeah,
had
just
to
put it all
go
together.
through and
Put it
yeah, yeah.
together.
So when you put all of that
Yeah.
together, then that's like a double play. So
Might be a shorter window than you think. I was just talking earlier from
exactly.
someone from scratch. So, and again, when
Hmm.
we had a different conversation, we were like in a Zoom. I would help, and I would be a little nicer. I actually am very nice, but I also don't tolerate
Yeah.
excuses very well. Everybody knows that about me.
Hmm.
So I will hear you. I will attend your pity party for the purpose of heading out very early, and I hope you come with me. So I will indulge your like three sentences. I'm like, well, what about? And I'm like, uh, did you get that doctoral degree in about like 5 hours?
Hmm.
No. So,
Hmm.
that's the thing, Brandy. We have to be very strategic in this season because when I think about who I serve disproportionately, excuse me, Black women that are saddled with student
Hmm.
loan debt, that are high earners. And when I think about that woman, she is me before I started this business, I was just like, girl, there ain't no time for excuses. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
you, and then not be funny. Most times, these are the same people that are the first generation student of going into college. Like you know
Yeah.
adversity. if you don't figure out 5 hours for this nonprofit. So that's the headspace I'm always in. And I talk to myself like that, not just my tribe or people I
Mhm.
care about when I don't feel like doing something. It's like, girl,
Yeah.
you did you graduated. Like my college journey is story is crazy. Like I am the person that has against all odds slapped on their forehead. Like because I am the
Mhm.
only child. My mom got sick, about to die junior year, still had to maintain close to a 4.0 to get scholarships to be able to afford college, because whatever happened with the numbers and the FAFSA, when she got sick, it looked like she made a lot of money, which she did, but now income had changed,
Yeah.
and FAFSA wasn't FAFSA then like it is now. Okay, so I had to work 2 jobs, which wound up then turning into 3, send money home.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, girl, and still keep close to a
Mhm.
4.0 to keep my full ride. So when people be talking to me about stuff, I'm like, girl, you got the wrong one because I'm going to make it,
Mhm.
but that's why I'm really, really successful because when these things come up, I don't find or take it, no, I don't do excuses well. I'm
Mhm.
the person that's going to create the bridge or make a plan B,
Yeah.
C, D, E, F, G. And then I'm also the person like, who can help me in this season of being a boss?
Mhm.
Who can I delegate to? Who can help me that needs, watch this, who also needs their student loans forgiven that can help serve on my nonprofit? Like, we got to start getting
Yeah.
strategic about people around us. You got cousins, friends, and family members that's in the same boat, or y'all get a little together and get your nonprofit going, whatever it looks like, and we can flesh out different capacity. I hope I'm not going too hard on the audience, but I do think that we've lost a sense of that go getter spirit. But I know that when I
Mhm.
hear who I think I'm talking to today, I know that it lives or they have it, and they sometimes just need to have it, you know, awoken. That makes
Mhm, absolutely, absolutely,
okay,
and I think
Brandy.
that's the whole
I
reason
hope I
of
come
it
back to
is
you. Like, "Girl, get your
yeah, yeah, no, I think it's good, and I think that, you don't wanna just be like, "Oh, it's easy," and then to acknowledge the fact, like, you are gonna have to put time in, but it's a choice, it is a choice, so you have 2 choices, you can either complain about the student loan debt that you have and having to make that payment every single month, or you can be strategic about it and go ahead and set yourself up for success, so
get
that
rid
way
of
you
it
can get
sooner
it
than later."
forgiven.
Like,
Right, and think
yeah.
about, like
I wanna
yeah.
see, particularly, like, the Black women that I serve, I wanna see them with no student loan debt before 50. And then I want
Mhm,
to see them
mhm,
without student loan debt after 50 because ding, 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 Parent Plus loans come back up like a little thief in the night because mom was paying her student loans so she couldn't prepare for her child. So let me just break this down, Brandy,
yeah,
for those that are listening, whether you're black, white, or whatever. But what happens is if we could get people out of student loan debt by 40, 45, let's just move it up a bit. There could be a
mhm.
window there where they could build some wealth, become investors,
Mhm,
right? Do some things different with their 401k, earn some equity in a home. Use that money to help their child pay for college so that your children and grandchildren may never have to know what a student loan debt is after you if we were to do this thing
mhm,
correctly. So that's why it's important when someone listening to your podcast gets done this podcast, they start thinking to themselves, okay, what do I got to do to be the game changer? Student loan stop it with my
mhm,
last name. This the generation is stop. And that's the type of energy you got to have because your children can't be the
yeah,
person that takes this thing over. And we be playing Brandy like student loans might even be available to the kids and the grandkids. We are $1.4 trillion in debt. You think that this is just going to keep the faucet on? You know what I mean? Like this is going
mhm,
to I would say there was a point where I believe it was the Trump administration where they were trying to take student loans from the federal piece back to private banks. You follow? It's almost like you're trying to sit
oh,
down and
wow,
buy a car and you have to explain to this
mhm,
subjective banker why you want to study butterflies. Now, do I think you should study butterflies? No. But
yeah,
what if it really was you wanted to be a medical student? Think about how many of the colleagues you
mhm,
know that if they had to sit down at their local bank that doesn't look like them and explain how they are a first generation college student, statistically the odds are against you, and your grades are of a B plus because of the school you went to, which was probably public, that you want to be this medical student
mhm,
and you want to borrow 200,000. Do you think you have a lot of colleagues in class that look like you, Brandy? No. So we don't
mm-mm,
even want student loan debt to go in the route of privatization, which it is closely headed. This is why when we are in positions of being business owners and high earners, but we have this debt, you got to treat this debt in your earning season like it's on fire if you're listening today,
Yeah.
so that you can be the change maker for the people that are coming behind you in your family, because we take for granted that all of these programs and things will be available for them and they may not be.
Mhm.
And then you're now retired, and how much help can you really provide living on your retirement
Yeah.
income? I'll get off my soapbox, but that's why this thing is really deep to me when I look at people that look like you and I, or that have a background. And I just think like, man, if we could really make some things shake for, for example,
Mhm.
Brandy, her lineage is going to look different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think somebody's going to name a child after me soon. I'm like, I just want a little something. No,
It's coming. It is
I
coming for
really love this
sure.
stuff beyond student loans, because student loans is like the silent financial thief that you didn't know you parlayed
Mhm.
with when you were in school. You didn't know how much it could have stolen from you, and is stealing from you, even as
Yeah.
you didn't know that when you were pursuing your goals. Our
No,
moms didn't
no.
know that, and our fathers didn't know that. So we be very generous with what our family members before didn't know. But we are in the season
Mhm.
of education. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, you podcasts. You are the change
Mhm.
maker in this generation. You're so informed. How could you not be? So we can move forward with the next question. Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to.
No, I love it. I love it because at the end of the day, you have to be passionate because you have to do a lot of research
Yeah,
and you're the expert in it. And
yeah.
so most
Put
times,
research aside. In this season, my
yeah.
company has helped over $50 million in student loan debt forgiven in
Mhm.
1 year. So just imagine every morning I wake up on average with 1 to 10
Mhm.
forgiven. I've been forgiven. I've been following you. And, it just makes my heart a joy, because I'm really being a part of someone's last name changing. Like, that's what gets me and
Yeah.
my team riled up, and I make sure that they feel the celebration. If we get a certain amount of forgiveness in a day, I'm sending lunch to them. I want them to feel it in their,
Mhm.
their day to day, wherever they are in the country serving, because, that's what's important to me. These are all numbers. But when we talk about now, mommy doesn't have a $700 payment anymore. Mommy might can afford
Yeah.
braces. Mommy might can, I'm just using this as an example. Mommy might can afford some
Yeah.
money to go into the child's college savings account. Mommy might can get caught up
Mhm.
on bill. I don't know what mommy need the money for, but mommy didn't need to keep paying the
Mhm.
government, because now mommy's forgiven. That's how big this thing is for me. And I try to like follow still the people that have been with me for a long time that got forgiven. I'm not trying to be funny, Brandy, but they are like looking like they live their best lives. Not that they just spend money. It's like they done twirled on the page. They look like they wear yellow dresses
Mhm.
now. I don't know. Everybody looks so happy and free and light. So just excited that I want everybody to be able to experience that. And I want you to be equal to your counterpart in the workplace. I want, when you
Mhm.
show up to work, I never forgot I learned this lesson when I was in work. I'm sitting there with student loan debt. The coworker next to me has none. Her uncle
Mhm.
saved up and paid for her to go to school. You see how other cultures was on it before we were, right? And so
Yeah.
the way I'm showing up with that dog, that work ethic, because I need this job to do what? Pay this, right? You all had the same
Mhm.
work ethic, because girl, you ain't really got no bills. I would like for our
Yeah,
community to know
it's
what that
true.
feels like. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that would, but I'm like, girl, you act and opt out because you have not over your head. I show up and
Mhm.
I overcompensate and pull your workload, because I know what this XYZK a year will do. Does that make sense? It's just
Absolutely, absolutely.
a whole thing behind student loan debt. If we had more time in 6 other podcast episodes, we could get into how it affects you mentally, how it affects you
Mhm.
physically, how it affects you, and just, relationship. I mean, I could do a series on these things. I probably will one day. And
Mhm.
how it shows up and affects those that have it in their life. Because
Mhm.
everything revolves around, I call it, it's the silent financial killer outside of
Yeah,
mortgage,
yeah.
the biggest debt you would have. So I hope everyone's
No, you said
listening.
that
Like, they're like, "Good."
Yeah, no, no, like, I like it because it's true. I think one of the things that comes up for me is, um, I'm just gonna pay student loans until I die. Like, it's just a
Oh,
permanent bill that will always be part of my
yeah,
life, and it's just something that I just have to accept, and it'll just be okay, and
and it
it's
will
just
not.
but to hear
That's
you
why.
say, like, "No,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
hope, and it is the silent financial killer," and I think about, my son, he was younger. I was talking to a financial planner, and because I have a graduate degree, highly educated, and and making sure that I wanted to progress in my career, and I've been able to do that, so I'm happy I have the degree. But when I talked to the financial planner and I was talking to him about, like, I needed to save for my son's tuition and I wanted to make sure he was set up for success, when we got to the part about my student loan debt, it was, well, you're just going to have to make sure that he's set up grade wise for scholarships. You're going to have to make
Mhm,
sure that, you're setting him up a different way. There was never any kind of conversation about this is something that you could do today in
mhm.
order to have your student loan
They don't know.
forgave or to do
Right.
something different, right? Like that never came up in
No,
that financial planner conversation ever. It was just more or less suck it up, it'll be
no, and
fine, and you're just gonna have to find a
did.
different way for your son.
This is why, Brandy, I've started, God pressed upon me to do this vision 2 years sooner. So I
Mhm.
started training other experts to do the work that I'm doing, because
Yeah.
I cannot serve and help 46 million people.
Mhm.
So I don't even want to help that many people. Okay. Like, so I wanted to, so
Yeah.
I was like, I got to duplicate me and I got to duplicate me fast. And also, my vision, I'm gonna be very transparent because I know me, was never to
Mhm.
manage a lot of people. I don't even like
Yeah.
management. I like people, but I don't like the management aspect. And I was like, God,
Very similar to our audience. Yeah, they're like, "I did not go into
not
business to be
this.
to manage a whole team, and I gotta learn how to do this." Like, what in the
I'm
world?
like, God, send me the scope of work for this role because I did not see. So long story
Mhm.
short, I'm training others to do the work that we do, customers for customers and clients, and I want to live in the space of leadership and education. And I just literally, since I
Mhm.
made that pivot and decision, I probably am sleeping a little less, but I'm just more fulfilled. Like every day it's like, whoa, today we're gonna,
Mhm.
because I'm in alignment, right? And so what I
Mhm.
realized is I need to be more intentional to solicit my program to financial advisors, because you not leaving a session understanding all of your options and you're paying
Mhm.
top notch to work with them is crazy that they didn't
Yeah.
have that on the menu, but they didn't know why, because they probably weren't
Mhm.
affected themselves and the community that they serve wasn't affected. So you'll just find scholarships for little Timmy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
and what else? So and then what
Mhm.
happens is now you leave, you're driving home, just gonna have to pay for the rest of my life. That reaffirms the
Yeah.
negative, stereotype that you had.
Mhm.
Do you know, Brandy, how taxing this role is in the sense of when I teach once a week or sometimes every day, depending on the season, I'm really teaching you to change your mindset. You do know that, right? I can
Mhm.
say the
Yeah.
same student loan points that takes me 10 minutes. You see how fast we got through that earlier? We would
Mhm.
spend this amount of time every day reaffirming you that you can do something different. Because Brandy heard all her life that money don't grow on trees. Sometimes you gotta rob
Mhm.
Peter to pay Paul. You got more, like, there are things you heard.
Mhm. Oh, that's exactly what I said. I don't know if you've heard me, but that's exactly my 2
Oh,
things, and those are what I heard, that money don't grow on
I didn't
trees,
know
and
that.
you have to rob Peter to pay Paul,
Yeah,
or I
no.
swear, like, yeah, that's exactly the 2 statements that I heard in my household.
Well, I didn't know that. So what happens is when you're on my platform, I always weave in subconsciously. This is the psychology student in me. So guys, money does grow on digital trees. Like I make light up and I switch
Mhm.
things. You do not have to rob Peter and
To pay
right. And you are now able to pay Pauline. Like we have to reverse these things in our
Mhm.
head. You are able to be free of student loan debt by age so and so. Your children shall not
Mhm.
know what a student loan is. Matter of fact, student loans are now a cuss word in this home, effective the date you got forgiven. That's the type of stuff you
Mhm.
got to start reinforcing in your brain, because then you'll move differently. You'll show up differently in your practice and at work. You'll have conversations different with your child, even about academic performance. I'm gonna give you one great example. Radically changed my mind. I'm hoping to help somebody today. So just like you did that session for you and your child, let's say you opened up for him. What's the program called? Oh my God, I just blinked out for college savings. Is it
Oh, the 5 what is it? 520 five
five
forty
twenty?
nine or 5 like 529, I
529
think.
plan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
549.
So a
Yeah,
lady I
yeah.
know opened up an investment 529 plan, this guaranteed investment. Talk to a professional about the two, right? And long story short, one is like this is what the numbers will be, and one what the market does this.
Mhm.
So what she did was she put on their and I'm only telling you this story because I saw it with my eyes. She put on their
Yeah.
wall a chart, both of their rooms, and she said, when you guys have birthday parties, your family and friends are going to only give you money that we're going to put into your plan.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
they would take their money, they would count it out, and she would take them to wherever to deposit it. And they would get a marker and color their paper. You follow? So think about a thermometer, we
Mhm.
get you color in. So now I want you to go on a visualization journey with me. If I go to sleep, I'm little Timmy, and I wake up and my barometer, Brandy, at age 6 says I have 50,000 in there for for college. I'm going to college, Brandy. I can afford it.
Mhm.
Oh, by age 13, because mommy started me early as a baby, I now have 90,000 in there. Oh, I think I'm gonna go out of state. Oh,
Yeah.
it's time to
Mhm.
graduate and it's 175,000 in there. I think I'm going to have this college as my option. I think I'm going to live here. I can afford game changer. I mean, it was the
Mhm.
best example of like financial parenting I ever saw, and I hope somebody steals it. That little boy is going to behave different at school 9 times out of 10, have
Mhm.
vision and talk about college more than anybody around them 9 times out of 10, brags on their chart that, oh, my mommy has 60,000 in there. Like we're going to college,
Mhm.
probably going to go at like 10. They're talking about going to Florida State. Like, does this make sense to you? Game.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that in our family, actually. That's one of the things that we
Mhm.
implemented with, like, gifting and
Yep.
529s, like, my cousin, she just recently like, her kids are now what are toddlers, essentially, but, like, 529s have already been started. We've already invested in their 529s because a lot of us are all college educated, but all of us too have student loan
Mhm.
debt, and so we're trying to make
Yep.
sure that, like, the next generation
Perfect.
is set up to
It
the
sounds like
yeah,
you
to
guys
pick up
also, and I
yeah.
want to live right there. You said something you didn't
Mhm.
realize you did. And I'm actually trying to change the narrative of my family. And I'm going to be honest with you. Ooh, and I got heavy saying it to you just now. Doing the Lord's work every day through social media, it is
Yeah.
hard to take this home to the family. I'm being so serious right now. But I want to give you credit for something you just said. You said, my family, you're talking about money. Let's just pause there.
Mhm.
Do you know how many families are not talking about money? It's taboo. Don't
Yeah,
nobody know what
very
nobody
true.
got going on. Won't even know if Uncle Bubba got insurance. And so I was
Mhm.
like, girl, you can't sit in this seat for the country, for the nation, and Uncle Bubba don't even talk to you about X, Y, and Z. That's a burden that I carry.
Mhm.
And then some of the stuff I had to let go too. Because I was like trying and trying with certain people. And I was like, you know what I'm gonna have to do, and I hope they don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I started putting money aside for a day. And I don't know what that day gonna look
Mhm.
like. And it don't gotta be as drastic as death. It could be another type of day. But I know that I'm going to be called on, and I know I am the one. And most of the people listening, you're the
Yeah.
one. And
Yep.
I realized that even with my mom is retired. She lost her hearing when she was a school teacher years ago. So she was gifted my grandmother's house. So even
Mhm.
now, I have to do so much repairs on her house because it needs that improvement. She can afford it on a retirement income with disability.
Mhm.
I mean, I had to put her repairs above my properties that need repair. I'm like, girl, I said,
Mhm.
now, I had to tell her, I said, when you get in this store, you don't look nothing, you don't touch nothing, you don't see nothing. So, I said, stop screenshotting me gates and things that you want for the front. So, what I'm trying to say is, like, when you are that person, you have that financial responsibility to bring this. family.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you because I don't think people caught what you just said. Nobody's normally sitting around at the dining room table talking some, let's talk about Timmy's 529 today. Let's pull that up. That's not common.
Mhm.
But what if it could be? That would just be like
Yeah.
such an amazing. So I hope that when people give you feedback about this episode, that would be such an actionable point that they look into some 529s or some ideas that they can implement in their family or for their children. That would be definitely a good, not weird moment that they did something after. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just love today's conversation. And I think, like, based on the amount of just gems that you dropped from actionable steps that you can take for about student loan forgiveness, and then just the views that we have when it comes to the money piece as well. And then on top of it, like, you don't have to be at the mercy of your situation or the mercy of your student loans either. Like, there is always something that you can implement if you decide to implement it. You take the time to implement it, and you actually are partnering with someone who can help you, and not just blindly, like, I think you just think about on my own experience, just blindly believing what people who aren't educated, who don't
yeah.
know, what you need to do about your situation too. So just thank you so much for the work that you're
Yeah.
doing. It's definitely making a difference. And so is there any like last words of encouragement or tips or gems or anything like that that you want to leave with the audience?
I think we covered so much today, more than I think you and I knew we were going to do. I didn't know put this in my
Yeah.
little sheet here. So, no, just follow my page. The biggest ask that I have in this season is to share my info. Share the page. Say, hey,
Mhm.
follow this girl. Don't be weird and try to explain what I teach if you don't really get it, because then you can turn people off or make them feel like that's a scam. They didn't talk about it. Ain't nobody getting forgiven. Like, girl, just drop them off and, let God do what God will do. So, just sharing
Mhm.
it out. And that's what we're committed to. We're committed to free education. Whether you ever make an appointment or get an ebook or whatever with us, you may never. Um, you will
Mhm.
always leave with something more from our Zoom classes or our lives. And by
Mhm.
you having new knowledge, it is now cooler talk or kitchen table talk for you to take back and share with others that need the information that you now have.
Mhm.
So that's it. I just say to people, this is the season to tune in, to listen to these shows, to be informed, read your emails. Do
Mhm.
not miss the biggest wave and opportunity of student loan real forgiveness, because we don't know when this may be duplicated ever again. So let's not pretend like
Yeah.
this could just come back. We don't know. I didn't know if we would ever see it in our
Mhm.
lifetime. So just excited for you guys to be a part of it and take advantage of it.
Yeah, yeah. One last question I do have with that
Mhm.
point. Where do people, if they're wanting to know more
Yeah.
information, yeah, where, like you're saying,
Mhm.
like for us to read emails, go to websites,
So
everything else, where do we go?
studentaid.gov is where it
Mhm.
lives. That's where all the updates come. Reliable sources like CNN and Forbes are pretty good. Our website, drpleasehelpme.com, we have a blog section
Mhm.
where we in a fun way summarize things. Also, when you join our community list or on our website, we're kicking off an audio newsletter where it's like just bite-sized versions of 15, 20-minute episodes of, hey guys, you need to know this, so they can listen while they're driving in the car. We're trying to get it over to a podcast officially very soon. So
Mhm.
we're just trying to put out fragment pieces on our end. Utilize and read what studentaid.gov has. Check your emails from Department of Education and your lender, whoever that may be. Between those things, you should be well informed if you want to be.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having it
Yes.
or for being here with us today. And I'm definitely looking forward to this episode airing and making sure that and all your information will definitely be in the show
I
notes
appreciate it.
too as
Thank you for
well. So
inviting me and
thank,
being patient with that
thank
form. I was like,
you.
Lord, I'm coming. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.